So welcome to Conversations with Working Folks Living Regular Lives. My guest here today is Alex. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
How are you?
So this interview is all about your awakening experience. They're
Okay.
your most recent or your most important one, and how you're living your life since then, how you deal with suffering, your personal one, and how you deal with other people suffering when they come to you for help, and your vision for a better world. So, yeah, first of all, how would you personally define the awakening or the enlightenment experience for you?
Okay. For me, this whole idea of enlightenment,
Mm-hmm.
awakening, whatever we're calling it these days,
Yeah.
has really changed a lot in the course of the past few years.
Right.
For a while, it felt like everything was new and everything was a big deal. Like every little realization was like, I remember a few years when it was like, oh my God, now I figured it out. Now I finally have it. Now I have like the key to life or happiness or whatever it is. And then it would something would happen in life, whatever it is, like some kind of challenge or setback or something, and it would just totally shatter what I thought was like the truth or the answer or whatever it is. And now it's a little bit different. I mean, I do still have what I consider important realizations, but I know that nothing is gonna save me, if that makes sense. I know that no realization is going to be, okay, well, this is the key and now everything gets easier, everything's going to be perfect or whatever it is. I don't want everything to be perfect anymore. I'm not holding out, waiting for the day when I just will be totally not troubled by things that come up.
Right. Yeah. So what was the shift that caused you to believe that?
The shift was realizing that what I have been looking for is not perfection, or is not being free from my emotions. It's the opposite of what I thought it was. In other words, like for a long time, I thought it was being free from suffering,
Right.
being free from my emotions, like being free from the sadness, the fear, the anger, whatever it is. And I don't remember exactly when the realization was, but it was recent. It was within the past 2 years, I would say. But it was realizing that, no, I'm not trying to get away from them. What awakening or enlightenment or whatever you want to call it is actually the moment that I decided to stop trying to get away from what was happening inside me. That's what I understand enlightenment to be now, is not avoiding my thoughts, not avoiding my feelings, and not avoiding what I think it all means. I think for a long time, for me, it was like I have this pain, like the sadness or the guilt or whatever. And I didn't want to feel it. I didn't want to know that I had that going on inside me. So let me find something to sort of cover it up so that I don't have to feel that. And for a while, it was personal development or spirituality. And the big shift was, it's not about getting away from it. It's about realizing that I can handle it. I can handle pain. I can handle it hurting. The part that hurts the most is feeling like I can't handle it and I got to get away from it, or I got to fix myself.
Right. That's a great definition, because so many people, including me, like when I experienced my first awakening or enlightenment experience, afterwards it felt like a drug withdrawal, where it felt like I had lost something. and I wanted to experience that again. And I kept trying and trying to get that back, rather than knowing that it's already here, it's always here.
It's always here. The realizations, those aha moments, they're great. They're a way to experience the world more. And they're a way to connect with people more. But I agree, and I definitely can relate to that feeling of using the realization to keep the high going, the spiritual high. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's this. Now I have it mastered. I have it figured out because of this big realization, and then it falls apart, right? The world always challenges it.
Yes.
The world always throws something your way, and you go, okay, well, that didn't work. I guess I don't have it figured out. Maybe I wasn't actually enlightened or awakened or whatever. But now I have it. Now this thing that I just figured out, now I'm actually safe from the world or ever having to feel bad again. I was chasing it, exactly what you said. I was chasing it for the longest time. And I think that has been the biggest shift for me, is accepting that that's not going to save me. The realizations are not, they're not ever going to do it. And I don't want them to do it. I don't want to just give up the negative half of my emotions and just have the positive half. I don't want to inoculate myself to the pain. That's not what it is for me anymore. In fact, I realize now that the pain is an essential part of the process. Without the pain, without the guilt coming up inside me or the fear or whatever it is, I don't have any kind of signal that says that I have something that needs to be looked at. The moment of awakening for me is every moment that I realize, wow, there's still something in there. There's something that hurts. And looking at it. That's how I experience consciousness the clearest now. Is the thing comes up, me stop and go, okay, where did that come from? Not I'm wrong for it, not I shouldn't feel angry, or just actually on the way over here, I pulled in, I was like making a left turn, right? And I was waiting to make a left turn, and then somebody pulls up in the lane next to me to make a left turn, and I look over there, and there was no lane to make another left turn. I was in the only lane to make a left turn. So the guy's just sitting there, and I'm like looking at him, and I'm looking at traffic, and something in me went, wow, that crazy old bastard's going to get both of us killed. Like I was going, what the hell is he doing? And there is a time that I would have gone, oh, whoa, that's not the spiritual thing to think crazy old bastard or whatever, but I'm not allowed to think whatever the hell I want? Really? Who's gonna tell me, like, who's the authority that can prove to me that I'm wrong for thinking that crazy old bastard's gonna get us killed? Like, I know that different people might say, oh no, you shouldn't think that, or oh, that's not really an enlightened thing to think. So, I'm not allowed to think that? I'm not allowed to get angry at my friend? I'm not allowed to feel guilt? I know that there have been times, I mean, even for me, like, there have definitely been times on this crazy journey where it seemed like, oh, I shouldn't feel that way, or I shouldn't be this kind of person, or whatever it is, but the biggest shift for me was realizing that there is no should and shouldn't. That's what awakening is for me, is realizing that these ideas about what I should or shouldn't be, should or shouldn't feel, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. There's what I am experiencing right now. Being really honest about it. As honest about it as I can comprehend at any given moment. That's awakening for me.
Wow. So, take me through the process where, when you experience what our culture calls the negative emotion, anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, and you see it as a signal, as feedback for something deeper that's going on. So what is it that's really going on when you experience these negative emotions, and like, how do you relate to them? How do you respond?
The way that I see this whole thing now is, to me, emotions are like, let's say I'm up in front of a class, or I'm giving a speech or something like that, and somebody raises their hand. They have a question or a concern or something. I'm going to listen to what they have to say, but I'm not going to listen to it with the purpose of like proving to them that they're wrong, or that I have them figured out, or that I'm the expert or something like that. I'm just going to listen. Like the person in the audience, they're raising their hand because they want to be heard. And for me, that's how I treat my thoughts and my emotions. They are raising their hand. They want to be heard. That's like when you really stop and look at what an emotion is it's something that wants to be experienced. And the suffering comes from going, no, I don't want to experience you. Let me distract myself from it. So for me, it's whenever I feel anything physically, that like any kind of tension, anxiety, whatever it is, that I know is not a purely physical thing. Like, it's not that, my leg is hurt or something like that. It's not that. It's some kind of tension that's happening inside me. My experience of the world, how I'm experiencing the world, is the most important thing to me. So before I do anything else, before I carry on the conversation or go on with what I'm doing, I stop and I let myself feel it fully, even if it hurts, even if it's uncomfortable. I let myself feel it completely, and then I just kind of ask myself, what is that? Where did that come from? And I try to be as honest as I possibly can, like even if I don't want to hear it. Guilt, for example. If I'm visiting the family or something like that, and I feel this just sort of vague sense of guilt, maybe, then I stop and go, okay, what is that? What is that, and where did that come from? And maybe the answer is, I feel guilty because I feel guilty because I'm talking too much. Like I just totally monopolized this whole conversation, and I feel bad. I feel like, okay, I'm trying to be the center of attention or whatever it is. Good. Just realizing that, just recognizing it, and letting myself feel that vague sense of guilt is what sort of does it for me, is what sort of lets it let go. Until I stopped and was honest about that feeling, it was just this sort of thing inside me that made me want to fix the situation, or fix myself, and I didn't really know how. But by stopping and going, okay, where did that come from, and being really honest about the answer, I just feel a lot better.
Right. That's a great question. Where does it come from? Because is it enough to just experience it? Because using the same analogy that you give often, like in my interactions with you, when we fall off a bike and we hurt our knee or break our ribs, we don't feel guilty for it because it's a physical pain. There's no cultural thing against feeling that, right? So we just feel it, but it's not enough to just feel it and experience it. We actually would put a Band-Aid on it or go to the doctor to heal it, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's not enough to just experience it, then with our emotional pain, I see that as also like feedback in the body. The emotional body is called for healing, just like the physical body is called for healing. So how do you explore that? How do you heal the emotional pain and the emotional signals such as fear, guilt, shame?
That's a great question. Part of what you're talking about, I actually, that quote, I moved it to the front of my book. That's now the first line in my book. The very first line of the introduction is this quote. And the quote is, if you fell off your bike and hurt your knee, or I'm sorry, no. If you fell off your bike and bruised your knee, would your knee be wrong for hurting? Is your heart wrong for it?
Right.
And those two questions, for me, put it all in perspective, because the reality is that we all do this. We all think, okay, well, physical pain or physical sensations, that's just kind of how it is, but emotions are different. Emotions need to be solved, and I'm right for having some of them, and I'm wrong for having others. But the truth is that all this suffering, like all the pain, the fear, the anger, especially when it's really bad, I didn't choose to feel those things. I'm not stoked that I'm really angry right now. Like, I didn't pick, wow, I'm really angry. I'm so glad that I'm angry right now. That's my reaction. That's pain that's stored from an earlier time. And the truth is that deep down, somewhere I probably don't want to be so angry right now, but this is just my reaction to it. But what compounds it and makes it almost impossible to solve is this feeling like, okay, I'm angry, but I shouldn't be angry. Mm-hmm. And life becomes, how am I going to not be angry, or how am I going to distract myself from this feeling? And for me, realizing that I'm not wrong for having that feeling. I'm not wrong for being angry or sad or whatever it is most of it. Because there's a layer of shame for so many of my negative emotions that's keeping me from experiencing those emotions. I'm angry, and then, I feel bad, I shouldn't feel angry, and I can't address the original anger because I'm too busy trying to get away from feeling it in the first place. But when I realize, I wouldn't call my knee wrong for hurting, why am I calling my heart wrong for it? Why am I calling myself wrong for it? I mean, sure, some people in the world would agree, you shouldn't be angry, you shouldn't be this depressed, or whatever it is. Maybe they would agree, but does their opinion prove that my emotion is right or wrong? No, it doesn't. And by accepting the fact that I am not wrong for feeling anything that I do, it opens everything up. Mm-hmm. It makes everything real, if that makes any sense. It makes life real. Life stops being this quest to get on to the next thing so that I don't have to experience my emotions.
Totally. For me, there's definitely a freedom in just fully experiencing my emotions and letting them flow through me. It makes me realize that, in fact, I am that freedom, and I'm not what I'm temporarily feeling. And that freedom, in some ways, is even better than happiness. Like, when emotions are not scary anymore, like, nothing is scary, right? Because all our problems ultimately boil down to fear of our own emotions. Like for example, fear of rejection when you go talk to a girl. What's fear of rejection? Fear of feeling the emotion of hurt, right? And we're willing to fully feel that, then it's not a problem anymore.
What you just said, like that's the key. For me, that's the key. Like when I stop and think about any of the things in the future that I'm worried about or that I dread or that I want to avoid, if I just sort of stop and geek out on it, especially now, holiday time is a really good time because, sometimes, you got family stuff and, I don't want to go over there, that's going to be boring or that's going to suck or whatever it is, I don't want to go over there. But there's actually something deeper that really makes me not want to go over there or interact with those people or whatever it is. I'm not afraid of that situation. That's not the situation I'm worried about. I'm worried that I won't be able to handle what's going on inside of me during that situation. I'm worried that I'm going to show up there and, it's going to suck, and then bad things are going to come up and I'm going to have a hard time handling it. But if I know for a fact that I can handle whatever comes up, life stops being scary. Like, I mean, if you just kind of stop and imagine that for a minute, like whatever it is, the thing that you're dreading or trying to avoid, if you imagine yourself experiencing it, sort of standing up straight, smile on your face, and you're imagining yourself totally equipped to handle it, that situation stops being scary. But the situation hasn't changed, right? What has changed is your perception of how you're going to handle it. Originally, you were dreading it because you thought, "Oh no, it's going to suck. I'm not going to be able to deal with what comes up inside me." But if I know for a fact that I am going to be able to deal with it, that situation and everything else stops being scary. And the only difference is I'm going to just feel my emotions as they come up, and that's it.
Right. So before this interview, I went to Quora.com, which is a question and answer site like Yahoo Answers, and got a list of questions. And there was a question that's kind of related to what we've been talking about, which is basically like, to put it in blunt terms, like, do you still like fuck up? Do you still, do you take actions that you regret, or even after knowing all this?
I don't fuck up anymore. No, I'm just kidding. I fuck up all the time. Like all the time. One interesting change that's been going on with me lately is I come from like kind of a confrontational society. I'm Russian, and in Russian society, you kind of like get in each other's face, and it's cool to like get angry with each other, that kind of thing. And I think for most of my life, there's just been this kind of assumption that if we don't agree, then we're on friendship strike. Like we're okay, that's it, and that means that like if we don't see eye to eye all the time, then fine, whatever. But this relationship is ruined, or something like that. And what I've been realizing lately, and kind of getting my footing with this, is no, it doesn't mean that at all. Like, I can be mad at you, or have a disagreement with you, or like we can have a full-blown feud about something. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to stay mad at each other. And in fact, it doesn't mean that I have to beat myself up over it while it's happening at all. Like, I can very clearly and plainly state to you, yeah, this does not work for me. That doesn't mean that we can't be friends anymore, that it doesn't mean that. We can totally iron out our differences, or not, agree to disagree, and still be on good terms.
Great. Yeah, that's a really great point, and it's great that you're willing to talk about it. It just reminds me of a video that I watched earlier this week about an African tribe where people almost never get sick, because whenever somebody in their tribe gets ill, they would put him in the center, and they would ask him a question: what have you been not saying? And the person would say what he had been not saying, and then he would be healed.
That's great. That's great. That's actually that question, not exactly that question, but I think I'm always asking myself, what am I avoiding? That question, what am I avoiding? Okay, and the process is, what am I avoiding? Okay, that doesn't really seem like what I'm avoiding. What am I really avoiding? And asking until I really get the right answer, and experiencing whatever it is emotionally, whatever the emotional pain or discomfort or tension is that comes up. I mean, that really is it for me. Like, as many times in the day as I can remember to ask myself that, I do. And especially when any kind of tension comes up inside of me, that's my clue to ask myself, what am I avoiding? What am I trying to get away from? And also, how am I hiding? How am I not letting the world or the people around me or the people I love see me? Or how am I avoiding them? Or how am I avoiding being in the world?
Wow.
Those are the questions for me. Yeah.
And how would you help somebody who comes to you for help that is suffering? What would you tell him or her?
I would, literally, if somebody comes to me for help and they want to talk about it, the first thing is, to kind of like be friends, get to know each other a little bit, and, like sit down, be on good terms. Because I'm just kind of finding that before that step, it doesn't really matter what you say. When somebody knows that you're on their side and you want to help them, I think that's like that's pretty much the number one thing. It's not about proving to you that I can help you or that I'm an expert or something like that. It's just sitting down and really just honestly wanting to help you. And I think that goes a very long way. And then after that, it's, what do you wish was different? How do you experience, like, what are the hardest things in your life? What do you wish was different? And then that will take us back to the question eventually, what are you avoiding?
That's a great way. That's totally awesome. Another question that came up on Quora was, what's the relationship between enlightenment and ethics?
Ethics?
Ethics, yeah. Because as we become spiritual, we kind of replace morality with our own inner guidance system, right? So how do you distinguish between right and wrong? How do you be a good person and not harm people?
That's a really interesting question. That's cool. As soon as you asked that, what came up for me was the realization, we were just talking about this a minute ago, that nobody really is going to let me help them if in any way that they don't want to be helped. And in that sense, I think that ethics and the desire to help, or the drive for a more enlightenment world or a more awakened world, they sort of overlap. Because no matter how much I want to bring this message to the world, and want everybody to wake up or be enlightened or whatever it is, the reality is that everybody is at their own place in their own path. And the truth is that I can only reach people or help people that are in a receptive place and that want the thing that we're talking about, if that makes any sense. Everybody's on their own path. Everybody's path is totally unique. And I'm not going to drill into the head of somebody who is not at the right place that they need to do this, or they need to experience their emotions, or they need to let go of their, whatever it is. And for me, that's been another big realization, especially when it comes to working with people, is that it's not about them getting it. Because who's to say that they really need to get it? Who's to say that I got it? We're all just kind of doing the best that we can. And for me, actually awakening and ethics overlap really well, in the sense that I should only be helping somebody with the thing that they want help for. The other things, that's all just my stuff. Who am I to say that they should or shouldn't be that kind of person, or feel the way they do or not feel the way they do? Whatever they want help with, I'm just going to do my best to see if I can help them.
That's great. And what's your vision of a better world? Or what's next for you?
That's kind of the same question, right?
Yeah.
What's next for me is to talk to more people about this, and to work with more people about it. And I think if more people know that it's not wrong to be you, and it's not wrong to feel the way you do about things, then eventually that will make the world easier to live in.
And related to that is, it's not wrong not just regarding feelings, but also regarding desires, right? Because one of the questions on Quora was, what's the relationship between enlightenment and sexual desire? Do you still have it? How do you deal with it? How do you act on it?
Yeah, again, I got to check out the site. That's a good question. Again, I mean, I know that especially if you're first getting into spirituality, enlightenment, if this is something that you're just sort of starting to discover this topic, it's going to seem like it's certain things are wrong or off limits or whatever. It's going to seem like, oh, okay, so I should be free of desire. I shouldn't care what happens in the material world because it's all about spirituality. I get it. I remember, you know, I have felt like that in the past too, but prove it. Where's the proof? Like, where's the actual evidence that says that shows beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's wrong to desire, that it's wrong to, you know, again, with all the other stuff, to get angry, to feel guilty, to be obnoxious at parties. That one I know really well. Where's the proof that it's wrong? I mean, we both studied the Lefko method. He says very often there's a difference between meaning and consequences, and that's very true. You know, if I am this like really obnoxious guy when I show up at parties and nobody wants to hang out with me, that's sort of the consequence of my behavior, you know, that these people are trying to avoid me or whatever it is. And that consequence, maybe it's real, but that doesn't mean that I'm wrong for being these things. If I accept full well, you know what, I just feel like being obnoxious right now. I just feel like being a loud, annoying jerk right now, and that's just kind of the way it is. And I also accept the fact that these people are not going to want to hang out with me. That's it. And it's the same thing with desire for me. I mean, you know, like different people are going to say, oh yeah, well, no, that's not really spiritual if you just want to like do dirty things to this girl. But okay, maybe in your world it's not spiritual, but for me, I feel the way I do, and if I want to do bad things to her, I'm going to do bad things. I mean, you know, if she lets me.
Totally, that's just awesome. One final question. Is there a question that I didn't ask that you wanted me to ask?
It's good. I think we're covered. Thank you.
Awesome.
This was great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you all for watching.